Hi, I'm Scott with Starkey Family, Fixing and Rigging Up. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Today we're going to do another fixing video. My turbo's about to go out. So instead of letting it just sit there down the road and ready to blow up, let's go ahead and change this thing out. Now what I'm doing today is I'm actually going to take the turbo off, and then I actually have to wait till tomorrow morning when the turbo comes in to give them the core, which is the old one, and then I can actually pick up the new one, and then we will take off on this video again tomorrow, and we will go ahead and install a brand new turbo. So let's get this video rolling. Okay, so let's explain why we're going through and changing this turbo. Well, this is what you call a variable speed turbo, okay? So it's got 3 vanes in it, and what's actually happening is when I'm going down the road, everything sounds fine, it runs great, then all of a sudden one vane will actually spike on it. I lose all my power, and there's all kinds of black soot coming out of the exhaust and everything like that. Now most people would say, well, that's probably your EGR. Well, in this case it actually is not. I have my truck put on a computer and tested with the airflow and everything like that, just to make sure, to rule out the turbo, sensors, whatever. Well, the problem is with this is the actual turbo. Now I will tell you that I had the truck put on the computer and they were reading some shorts, okay? So the shorts that this actually read was 2 pages long. And come to find out, my wiring harness, my main wiring harness that goes up into the dash and everything like that, was actually shorting out. So I went ahead and just took it to the dealership and had them go ahead and replace the harness and put it back on the computer and clear out all the codes, okay? So I completely eliminated any of the wiring issues for that, okay? So I eliminated the EGR, which is normally the culprit doing that. But like I said, in this case, it's actually the turbo that's doing this. So anyways, try hauling a load down the road and you have no turbo. What actually happens is, your engine will pull the load at 15, 20, 30 miles per hour if you're lucky. So you don't want to do that very long. I mean, if you got to limp yourself home or something like that, or to a garage, that's really not great, but if you make it, that's good. The problem is with turbos, most of the time they're either good or they're bad. There is no in between. In this case, there's an in between. So before this thing decides to seize up and throw chunks of metal throughout the engine and blow the engine also, let's go ahead and just replace this turbo. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the airbox. These right here are the tools that I'm actually going to be using. Okay, this right here is a 14 millimeter. That's going to be for the 2 bolts up here, and then there's 2 underneath. And then I'm going to be using a 8 millimeter, just a little screwdriver here with a socket on the end. And we're going to use that on the clamps over here. And then we've got a clamp underneath here, which is also an 8 millimeter. So let's go ahead and get that out of the way and start clearing some room up. Okay, first things are first, let's go ahead and take the filter out. Come on. And this is a K&N air filter, if you've never seen one. So these are kind of expensive. Okay, so let's get the bolts underneath first. We'll get them loosened up anyways. This is probably the worst one. to get. So we'll just get that one there first. Okay, there's the nut for that. So let's get the other one here. Yes, I do like wearing my gloves. Yeah, okay. Let's get the ones up here on top. Okay, we've got one more here. Okay, so now let's go up and get the 8mm. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and do this one here. I'm just going to pull it around so it doesn't get lost. Okay. Okay, got one right here. Okay, there's that one. Okay, we got a sensor. Come on. Let me get down and get this one. There we go. We'll tuck that out of the way. Okay, we got one under here. Now make sure you're very careful when you're undoing this sensor right here, because those are plastic and they will break and cost you a lot of money. Okay, let's see if we can get this pipe off here now. Okay, so here's the turbo, and here's what my plan is. Next piece we're going to remove is we're going to remove this tube right here. So this right here is a 13mm. Let's go ahead and loosen this up. Okay, come off her. Okay, so next, before we remove that, we're going to come over here with an 11 millimeter. Okay, so this one here we're going to spray down. I want you to hear this. Right, so before we snap that, I got some penetrating oil. So now what I'm actually using is the Howes lubricator. This stuff here is not bad at all. Just go ahead and spray it down. That'll penetrate in there. We're going to work it backwards a little bit. Now we're going to work it forward a little bit. Now we're going to work it backwards a little bit. What we're doing is we're getting that oil inside of that nut. Hear how it's not popping and cracking? Told you it's some good stuff. If you want to buy some, I'll leave some in the description so you can get on Amazon and get yourself a bottle of it. It's well worth it. Okay, so back to this one here. This is important. Do not hit this thing hard. All you're wanting to do is just actually break this thing loose. And it's broke loose. So let's go ahead and loosen it up a little bit more. Okay. It's stuck down there at the bottom. There we go. And yes, this is a plastic hammer. Well, this is actually aluminum, but the ends of it are plastic. That's so you won't damage anything. Yeah, I guess we're gonna have to tighten or loosen that up a little bit more. Okay, let's just go ahead and take that nut off there. Okay. So we can leave that out of the way for right now. We're gonna put the nut back on there so we do not lose it. Okay, So we just pop that off. Next thing is this rubber boot. We've got to remove that. This is the old clamp. I just moved it up and a little bit out of the way, and that's all you do. Put your screwdriver on and just kind of peel it a little bit. Okay, so we got this out of the way. Okay, so I went around and sprayed all the bolts and got the tools for this part here. Now I want to show you what this is. This is called a crow's foot, and yes, that's got my father's name on. That's one of the tools that he actually left to me. But what this actually does is it helps you get into areas that normally you cannot, and they're good for breaking stuff free. Okay, so that's broke free. Gonna try to get this line off. It's being stubborn now. Jeez. Okay, there it goes. Okay. So we're gonna take this line off. Oh, one thing I didn't want. Can you see that? My line twisted in half. So now I'm gonna have to get a new line. Okay, well, let's just deal with that. Okay. Now, where this actually is, this is a pretty good potential of happening. So just a heads up. Okay, we'll just simply put that back. Okay. Yeah, look at that. That's definitely no good, is it? Well, let's go and keep getting the turbo. Get it off there. Okay, so day 2, I'm back. Now, I started this project over the weekend. I spent Monday running around for parts, and by the time I got back during that day, it was late afternoon. So, today's actually Tuesday afternoon, because I had to go and do other stuff today. But anyways, I want to show you what kind of parts I actually gathered up. And so we can do this job. So I wanted to let you actually see this stuff. Okay, so this right here is a brand new turbo, if you can't tell from all the shininess. But anyways, I was going to tell you, this is a speed control sensor. Okay, if your turbo doesn't come with one, this would have cost me a little over $300 at the dealership. So if you're lucky enough, your turbo will come with one. This right here is an airflow sensor, which I had to buy separately. This will actually screw right into there. These are just caps covering up the orifices of the turbo until I go to install it. Now this right here is a sensor harness, also very expensive. Okay, basically I haven't replaced it on the engine for many years, so if there's any problems with the sensors not ringing right, this should take care of that. And this right here is where it plugs into the computer. Now next on the list is you need to have an exhaust gasket. So this right here will end up going right there where the turbo and the exhaust manifold meet. This is the oil drain line gasket. Here's the O-rings for that. This is a new oil sending unit. Okay, this will go on the driver's side in the very back of the engine, and all these are very expensive, by the way. These nuts, you might not think anything about it. These are 12 point, and these right here for the exhaust manifold for where you bolt on the turbo. These are very expensive. These are new studs. These are also very expensive. But if you're going to change the turbo out, you want to try to get these pulled out so you can actually change them as well. Now you guys saw me twist off the oil line yesterday or over the weekend on the turbo. This is a new oil line. Well, that right there is extremely hard to get, just because you have one little section on here that is flexible. But anyways, let's go ahead and start working on the truck. Okay, so what we're actually doing right here is, this right here is for this line, the oil line. This actually holds it in place. And let me tell you, this is a pain to get to. And I'm going to tell you, if you do not have any penetrating oil, I feel sorry for you. With the heat and everything back here, you're going to need penetrating for about everything. Now, as I was going to tell you, this is the drain tube for the turbo. When you're doing any type of work, put a bag over it. Make sure it's covered, because that goes straight to your oil pan, and any oil that's in there. So if you lose something, well, guess what? You're gonna be out of luck. We are definitely putting a new bolt in this. Not much room back here. And as you see, this little brace here broke. So, and have to see what we can do with it, if anything. Okay, that's the last thing holding that oil line in. Okay, let me see if I can show you where that oil line is back through here. I don't know if you can see that down there, but it's not very fun, is it? Okay, do you see my wrench? I've got it actually onto the oil line right there. Now this is how fun it is to get to. I can just barely reach that to make any type of turn at all. Let's come back out here. Yeah, this is not fun at all. Okay, so let's get back in here. And by the way, watch out for these things here. Jeez. Okay. Now I was able to break it free, but oh, this is stupid. These people, I'm telling you what, there's no reason for this nonsense. If you don't have a wrench like this, you're in trouble. This is a 13/16 wrench, by the way. This is gonna be fun. Okay, so unfortunately, I cannot get this out of there because it's seized in there. So I'm gonna do something I will probably regret, but we don't know yet. I'm gonna chop it. Okay, maybe I can turn that thing out of there now. Okay, we're gonna have to bend that thing just a little bit. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a boxed in wrench down here to the metal part, a little bit hard, and bend it. Okay, now I should be able to turn it out there. Okay, it's coming. Okay, one oil line out. Okay, so let me show you what we got here. This is the old line, okay? This right here is where we had to cut it, as you see. These are actually what I use to cut it with. Just clipped it. Now, I do want to stress, you normally don't want to cut lines unless you have no choice. This fitting right here should have unscrewed, but you can see how it's seized in there. So it's actually pretty rough. Now, if you do need to cut them, make sure you have a backup plan. With this right here, basically all I did was, because you can see that's not a 90-degree bend anymore. I actually had to take a wrench under the back of this right here and force it backwards and bend this. And then what I did was I just took my hands and unscrewed this. Okay, I already had it broke free, this part here. Now this is a 19 millimeter. You can use a 13/16 if you want, it's close. But this is actually the part that we're looking at right here. As you see, this right here has an O-ring. This is going to screw right into this. Okay, now before you go and do that, I want to show you something. Okay, this is very important. All this is just grease. Okay, this is what I use on my truck, so it's just some grease. You're just going to take a little bit. You don't need to take a lot, and you only do this on the O-ring side. Okay, the reason being is, and you don't want to go overboard with it, but the reason being is you have a O-ring in there. Okay, the last thing that you want to do is screw this in there, pinch the O-ring on something dry, and there you are. You got an O-ring that you have to go find at a parts store if you're lucky. Okay, now on the opposite side, make sure you wipe it off really good. And then what you're going to use is, I use the Permatex brand. This is called anti-seize. So basically, you would take this, there's like a little brush on it, and you will go all the way around on these threads. Okay, now I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to wait until I get it into the block. And the reason being is, if I do it now, there's just going to be a big mess everywhere. Okay, with that anti-seize on there, you have a greater chance of this not happening. Okay, I should have just been able to take a wrench, break this thing free, unscrew it with my hand, and pop the whole thing out at one time. But no, that did not happen. So I do want to stress, any bolts that you put in, especially in a hot area, okay, or an area where there's going to be wetness or whatever, anti-seize everything that you can. Trust me, you'll thank me later for it. You can grease, like this right here is going to be internal, and there's going to be a lot of oil. Okay, you can grease your bolts, and that does help, but this right here does a greater job. So let's go ahead and start installing all this. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this started in the back. Trying to here. Not much room. Okay, got it in there now. Okay, it's in there hand tight, almost. Okay, so let's go down with the socket, and I do have an adapter in there so I can put a smaller wrench on it, ratchet. Okay, got it tight there with my hand. It's a perfect amount of room in there. So, now you want to put it tight, but don't break it off. Okay. Okay. Whoops. There's that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to get the anti-seize and put on there. What the brush has is plenty, so you don't need to be trying to make a big old mess getting a bunch of stuff in there. You can get right in there. Okay, now it's also important not only to just do that, you want to do the threads up here as well. That way you know that you have good coverage. Okay, got it started on. Okay. See how far I can go with a normal wrench. Not very far. Might help if I pick up the right size, right? Okay. Let's just use this one then. Which is the right size. This is terrible. I'm telling you, this is downright terrible. Should never have done anything like this. Problem is, you really just can't get a good bite on there to, you know, really do anything. That's the problem. Might be able to work it a little bit more with my fingers. Yeah. Okay, I think that's about it with my fingers. I don't know if you can actually see what I'm doing in there, but I'll tell you, this is definitely not good. All the places to put an oil line. Jeez. As you see, it's still loose, right? There's no room to get a wrench in there at all. Okay, I'm going to try a straight one. We're alternate with that. So I get one turn with that one, and I guess I'm going to get one turn with this one. I don't know if you guys can see how crazy this is. Can just barely turn this thing at all. Okay, finally making a little bit of headway. Okay, I think I've got that about tight now. Okay, that's tight. So yeah, again, that is not fun at all, trying to get that in there. So now I still gotta get a brace for that over here, but I may end up having to come back because I have nothing to actually use where that other brace is broken. So let's get back on that later. Okay, so now it's time to do some cleanup work. So we're going to actually clean up the exhaust pipe. We're going to clean up the manifold. Now, you saw that I bought new studs, okay? These studs here are about 1.5 years old, okay? Because this gasket is actually blown and I replaced it. And I do have that in a different video if you would like to watch it. Now, I went through and inspected every one of these little studs here. There's no pitting like normally. There's nothing wrong with them. So the anti-seize that I put on there did the job. Okay, so instead of risking, because when you pull these out, you're taking a risk that you're going to break one. Okay, these are pretty hard metal, but anyways, I've decided that I'm going to leave them in there and I'm just going to clean them up. Okay, so let's go ahead and start cleaning all this stuff up. And there again, if you haven't already, make sure you cover up your oil tube. You don't want any of this stuff down in your engine. This is what I'm using. Now, you can use a wire brush, but why would you? Unless you don't have a drill. You see all that rust coming out of there? That's not going to make a good seal. If I reverse the wire wheel, then it will come loose. So that's why I'm not doing that. Yeah, I knew what you were thinking. Okay, let me do a little bit more here. Okay, so we just did the inside. Let's make sure we do the outside. Look at all that rust come out of there. Can you see that? Okay. So now, let's get down in here. Oh, pretty tight down in here. Okay, clean this flange. It's more of a pain doing it this way with the studs in. By the way, make sure you don't poke your eye out with these things. Jeez, they're horrible. Okay, so that's clean. Exhaust is clean. Okay, so we got new nuts for these, so that's good. Let's go ahead and go clean up the clamp that's going to go around the exhaust. Okay, let's clean up the clamp. You're just going to turn your drill back and forth like this, and that cleans up both sides. Shouldn't really be a lot of cleanup on this. These are stainless. Okay, the inside looks good. So let's go ahead and pull this off. Just go lightly over it. So you don't want it to strip out or anything, just go lightly. All you're doing is just cleaning out the debris. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab a turbo and let's start putting it back together. Okay, I was taking the bag off of the oil tube. Now, I went ahead and got the O-rings, but let me tell you this. I've had turbo off a few times on here before. I've never been able to get this off before. What happens is there's O-rings that seize up on these tubes, and then you end up with a lot of problems trying to get this stuff off, okay? But let me show you this. It finally came off. There's an O-ring here that you can replace to keep the oil from, leaking out, of course. First time I've ever been able to get that off there. But guess what? Apparently today's my lucky day. So now, all I gotta do is bolt this onto the bottom side of the turbo and come over here to the tube, and I'm good to go. Otherwise, if you watch my other video, you see how much fun it is to try to bolt this to the turbo while it's still installed. That is horrible. So let's go ahead and do some cleanup and change that O-ring on here. Well, I just ran into a problem on the new turbo. I just took it out of the plastic, and see this fitting? This belongs right here. Well, I just ran into a problem. You see this hole? This fitting is supposed to be in it, and guess what? It was, but guess what? It is broke off. All I did was take it out of the plastic, and this right here rolled out. So this right here is what it's supposed to look like. This is the old one out of the old turbo. I kept it because I wasn't sure if I needed to keep it or not. but that actually screws into there. So now I'm going to have to see if I can get that out of there. That's the way it goes. Okay, so I'm back, and of course it's dark again. You know how I love working in the dark. Anyways, I went over to AutoZone, and this is what they had. And for an extractor kit to try to get that piece out of the turbo. This is not what I want to use. I can't find my extractor set, but I am going to try this. If it doesn't work, then I'm going to go shopping again tomorrow. But let's go ahead and see if this thing actually works or not. Okay, so this is the size we actually need, but it bottoms out in there. Okay, it goes in too far, and this diaphragm inside of here, it'll end up going into it. So the next size that we have is not really the best. It gets on the outer skirts of this, but let's go ahead and try it. Let's tap it in. Make sure it's fairly straight in there. Try and take it easy on it. Screw this in. So basically what this has is an extractor has reverse threads. Okay, so essentially it's going to go in there and turn everything backwards. You gotta be very, very careful with it though. I don't actually think this is working. Nope, that's what I thought. Not really working. Yeah, that won't even bite. I don't think this is actually working. I think it's making everything worse. Yep, this is not doing it. So the AutoZone tools are, well, the AutoZone extractor. This is pretty well crap. So I am going to rate this screw extractor on my crap list. And I think this is actually going to go back. So I guess tomorrow I'm going to have to go somewhere else. There's not really much I can do tonight. So I'll catch everyone tomorrow morning. Okay, so let me go and give you an update. Since my last video on this, we're still in the turbo right now. I ended up having to take the other turbo back and having it returned, and then having another one shipped in because there was a part that was actually broke on it. Okay, so in that time period, 2 weeks have actually went by so far. And what's actually happened was I had to go in for a surgery. So I'm not completely right yet, but I'm good enough. So anyways, we've got to go back through and we need to install this turbo and get this truck running because I need to make some money. So let's go ahead and take off, and let me show you the preparations I got to do for now. Because where the truck has actually been setting, you remember I took the drill and the wire wheel, went around everything, cleaning everything up. Well, we've got surface rust again, so I'm gonna have to go back through and re-clean everything back up, and then we're gonna go ahead and unpackage this new turbo, and we're gonna go from there. So let's get this video rolling again. Okay, so let's go ahead and unpackage the new turbo. I have not had it out yet, so oh geez, these things are not light. Ugh. Okay, I'm going to show you what was actually broken on the last part. Right here, okay, where this fitting goes in, the housing was actually cracked right here. And this right here, this fitting was snapped off. It don't really seem like it's a lot, but this right here is very important. So anyways, here's the new turbo. See if there's anything in here. Yay, got a new gasket set. Nice. Okay. And it says how to install a turbo. Nice. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and do the cleanup now. And let's go from there. Okay, so since it's been a couple weeks since I've been able to work on any of this stuff, as you see, like around these edges where it's been pouring the rain, moistures are coming up from the bottom, I've got to take my drill and go around all this stuff here and re-clean everything up. So let me go ahead and do that real quick, and then we'll come right back. Okay, on one of my prior videos I showed you how much my old turbo weighs. Let's see how much this one here actually weighs. Oh, jeez. This one here weighs exactly 66 pounds. Okay. Now this weight is actually before I add any oil to the turbo. Okay, so let's go ahead and change the O-rings on this tube now. Okay, so we got two of these O-rings that look like this, just rubber. I'm going to use some grease to put it back on with. Be careful and do not drop your O-ring down the tube. Otherwise, you will have a lot of problems, especially when your oil pump sucks that inside and your engine self-destructs. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you wipe that thing off really super good. There's like a little channel there. Make sure you take your rag around it. Get all the nasties out there. Both channels. Okay. So now we're going to take some grease. If you want, you can use motor oil. That's fine too. We just want to make sure this is well lubricated in here. Don't be using any penetrating oil or any garbage like that. That's not the right purpose oil for this. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and do the first ring. So we're going to actually just dip this in here. Make sure the ring is well lubricated. Okay, there's the first one on there. But we need to slip that down. Okay, so that's slipped down on the lower notch. Okay. Okay, take a little bit more grease, go around it. Okay. Okay, now take your bag for right now until you get your turbo, until you're ready for your turbo. Put your bag back over top of it. Okay. So I'm going to go get the turbo ready real quick and we'll come right back. Okay, so if any of you watched my last video when I was replacing a gasket for the turbo, I had to remove my old turbo. This right here is the top. This goes right over here, but actually it goes like this. But this is the top of my oil drain line. Okay, oil drain tube. How about that? Sorry. So, anyways, when you're trying to unbolt this from the bottom, there's just so much junk down here. It's really difficult to try to get in there. Okay, so I was able to get this off, and you saw I was able to place the O-rings. So now what we're actually going to do is we're going to bolt this in before, and then in theory all we're going to have to do is set the tube down inside of this. So it should be a lot easier. Okay, now this only goes one direction. The larger section is going to face outward here. Okay, so first off, let's go ahead and put some anti-seize on this. we're going to go ahead and run one bolt all the way through. We're going to go ahead and put the gasket on here. And then we're going to do the same thing with this one over here. Let's just go ahead and run that bolt through there. Okay, here's the anti-seize. We don't have to put a lot on here. Just enough. Let's run it in with our hands. Okay, let's spin it on with the socket. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and tighten it down. Doesn't have to be super tight, but we're going to get it a little bit tight here. Okay. So now we're going to take the turbo and install it. Okay, so let's go ahead and try to stick this down in here. This thing is just too heavy, I'm telling you. Well, believe it or not, this oil tube is making this rather difficult. Okay, let's try getting this turbo up in here. Okay, let's take a break. This is not working too good. Well, I think I'm gonna have to go ahead and take that cap back off the bottom of the turbo and put it back on the tube. We're gonna have to put that back on the hard way. Okay, so I just tried putting the turbo on with this bolted to the bottom of the turbo. There's just not enough room to get it swiveled in, to bolt onto the exhaust manifold, to get this tube to go down and go into the main exhaust. So what we're going to do is we're going to make some room, because these two bolts are extremely hard to get to. I'm not sure exactly what this thing is, but we're taking it off. It's got something to do with the EGR stuff, so not sure exactly what it is. Some sort of sensor. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that off. If you notice, there's a notch for this right here. I guess it won't turn, whatever that thing is. So now it's out of our way. So that should give me enough room now to come up underneath here and get the screws in there a little bit easier. If not, well, we'll be taking the turbo off again. How about that? Okay, so here's what the plan is. I've got the gasket back off. The manifold gasket's staying on. So I'm going to try to lift the turbo back in here again. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and lift the turbo up and slide the gasket inside there. That's what I had to do last time. Is it fun? No, definitely not. But that's what I'm pretty well left with. So let's go ahead and try this. Get one in there anyways. Okay, so the turbo is not going to fall now, so let's go ahead and put that gasket in. Okay, so here's what we're actually doing. I'm going to take the gasket. You see that little space I created? All I did was tie the turbo up just a little bit. It's got one nut holding it on in the back. So let's see if I can fish this in here. I got a pair of needle nose pliers. Here's the gasket. If I get lucky, I can get it in there. Okay. It's in there, but I don't know if both if it's going to line up with both the bolt holes. Let me go ahead and try to get the easy one in here first. Okay, got the easy one in, and for this I am using a universal joint. So this one here has the socket built into it, so that actually makes it get pretty good. So let's go ahead and try to get the other one. By the way, this is a 10mm. So I don't know if that other one's lined up in there or not, so this is going to be fun. This is the hard one. Okay. See if the gasket moves here. Pretty sure the gasket's in place there. Let me go ahead and see if I can see it from the top. So I'm just taking my flashlight. I'm going to shine this from the top. And it's not. So let me try again here. Taking that thing off, I didn't know what the name of it was. Actually opened up a good bit of room back here. But we may end up with another can of worms trying to get that thing back in there. There is not really a good way of doing this. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to push this gasket over to where it belongs. So let me try this again here. Okay, let me hop up here again and see if it's in there. Okay, it is in there now. I got lucky. So basically what I'm going to do is now I'm going to try to tighten these up as much as I can right now before dropping the turbo. Okay, so I think it's safe to drop the turbo now. So basically, let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so let me go ahead and take all this off here now, and then we can get back in there and start tightening everything back up. Okay, so it's starting to get really dark out. And I looked on my radar and there's a really bad storm coming in. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just try to bolt this turbo up real quick. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and call it a night. And then we can finish this out maybe tomorrow if it's not raining. So right now I'm tightening up the bottom right hand nut. Okay, we're not going to do it tight, we're just snugging a little bit. Okay, so now we're going to come right over here. This is one of my ratchet wrenches. Well worth the money if you don't have any. Just saying. Okay, we're just going to snug that up. Let's try to hand tighten this up a little bit more. This is the top right side. See how easy that was to get in there? Well worth it. And here again, we're just going to snug it up a little bit. Okay, now we're going to come back here to the bottom, which we're not going to be able to see this. Get it tightened up in my hands first. Okay. Now this one here that we're working on is on the bottom left hand side. Since we got all the other ones that are kind of snugged up, we're going to go ahead and tighten this one up. Okay, so since we go by corners on these, because there's 4 of them, we just tightened that one up. So let's come right back here, tighten it up. Okay. So now let's go down here to the bottom and work on it. This one here is probably the worst one. These all are 13 millimeter, 12 point. Okay. Okay. Got that one tight. Now up here. Okay. So we have the exhaust manifold to the turbo tightened up. So let me go get the clamp for the exhaust to turbo, and then we'll put it on real quick. Okay, so I went ahead and put this on there. It just takes a little bit. You have to do a little bit of tapping here and there. And I went and got my other ratchet with a longer socket. Now, when you go to put this on, you're going to do it a little bit snug. And then you're going to have to tap it, okay? Try not to break anything, but this is just the way you got to do it, okay? I know there's not a good way to actually get in here. What this does is it allows everything to go down into the crevices. That way you can tighten it up a little bit more, a little bit more. It increases your chances of not having an exhaust leak. Okay, let's not force it. Should be tight on there now. Okay, so we are going to have to plug this hole up here. We're not going to put the oil line on, because what we're going to do is, before I start this engine, I'm going to go ahead and do an oil change, okay? Well, after I go to start the engine up, I have to pour straight oil down in here. That way the turbo is actually lubricated, okay? If I try putting oil in it now, it's just going to end up draining right through, then I'll have to do it again. But with the rain clouds coming and the rain's not very far off, I just want to get this all put on here and put together. So what I'll end up doing is I'll just get some black tape and put over top that hole. No big deal. So let me go get some tape real quick. Okay, so it's Friday and it's been raining most of the day again. I've got a small window right now where it has actually quit. But if you see in the background, it's probably going to come again. So what I'm actually doing today is I'm just going to finish putting all the components back on that are around the turbo area. So let's go ahead and get this started. Okay, so yesterday I was trying to get everything rushed around before the rain came, and I did just barely make it. So as you see, I plugged up the top of the turbo, the oil drain tube. Now I did put the screws on, but I didn't get them tightened down. But as you saw, there's like this other thing that pulls out. I wanted to stick it in there real quick, so let's go ahead and pull that out so we can tighten up the oil tube. Okay, this is what we were pulling out. We'll just set that there for a moment. So now we're reaching this up in here. It's hard to keep this on. Okay, there's that one. And there's that one. Okay, so now that we've got that tightened back down, we can take this and insert this again. Now we're just lining this up. It's just been fun. I don't know if you can see that in there. There we go, finally. Maybe we can get right down in there. Hey. There we go. Okay, that's on now. So let me go get some zip ties and then we're going to plug that item in. Okay, so here's the plug. Before we put this on, we're going to use some electrical grease. This is something you want to make sure you always do with electrical plug-ins. Okay, that's going to plug in right back here. Okay, so there's a clip on here. You just simply flip up to lock it in place. Okay, so it's on. So let's move on. Oh, I almost forgot. We're going to take this wire and we're going to zip tie it up. That way it doesn't move around on us. And unfortunately, it looks like, if you can see it, it's starting to rain again. So I guess our little window didn't last for too long. Okay, so the wire's zip tied up, it's plugged in, locked. This little mechanism is back together. Okay, so we're done with that item now. Well, unfortunately, as you can see, it's decided to start raining again, so I guess we're gonna have to hold off again. Well, we'll continue this when we can. Okay, so today's Saturday, and you can see the weather behind me right now. Everything looks pretty nice right now. So let's try to work on this truck again and knock it out today. So let's go ahead and get this rolling. Okay, so we're going to take this oil line and go ahead and secure that down. Okay, so I went ahead and got this and I bent it to what I need it to be. So now basically all we're going to do is we got to clip this on to the oil line real quick. And then when I go to tighten this down, then it is simply going to lock onto the oil line and keep it from vibrating around. I hope you can see this in here. Not sure if you can or not. May actually have to take my gloves off for this so I can feel. I would like to be able to get all three of these on here. It might be easier if I flip this over and have this running up from the bottom, then out through the top. Now I am using new hardware. Okay, so I got the bolt on there, so we just need to go through and tighten it down now. See if I can get it just on the top. Okay. Okay. So I got the first clamp holding the oil line on there now. So that's good. So we got another one right here that we'll have to try and attach. Maybe. May not even be able to get that on there. Turbo is actually setting a little bit lower than what this line is right now, so oh wait, there is an adapter that goes on there, isn't there? Okay, so it'll be raised back up. Okay, so I got the oil line taken care of for right now. Of course, I still have to have it loose because I'm gonna have to put oil down into the turbo after the oil change. Okay, so what I did was I went and got some wire loom and put over top of one of the sensor wires, because it's gonna be riding right about here and plugging in right here. There's gonna be a lot of heat. So the other sensor that's gonna plug in right up here, oops, like this, plug in right up here, I went ahead and put the plastic wire loom over top of it as well. So let's go ahead and take care of that. Let's go ahead and put it in. We're just going to install this in by hand. Oh, I dropped a wrench. Now this one here is going to take a 14 millimeter. It doesn't take much to put in. So that means do not force it. So this wire here is going to come up back behind here, and then it's going to plug in like this right here. Okay, so let me go ahead and zip tie that together. Okay, so before I go any farther, I'm going to have to be able to put oil down into the turbo. Okay, now there's no point in putting oil in the turbo right now because it's just going to drain back out. So what I'm going to do is I need to do an oil change on the truck real quick. So let me go ahead and do an oil change on it, and then we're going to come back to the turbo, put oil in it, and put the air box back on, and then we're going to start the truck up. Now I'm not going to show the oil change just because it's a little bit time consuming, and most people already know how to change the oil on their trucks. Matter of fact, I do have a oil change video, so if any of you do want to watch that, I do have it, and I will link that video in the description just in case you want to watch that on one of my prior videos. So let's go ahead and take care of the oil change real quick, and I will be right back. Okay, so this is the kind of oil that I use. This is Mobile Delvac Extreme. This is fully synthetic. My truck requires 1540. Your truck may require something else. As far as I'm concerned, this is the best oil to buy. And now I'll go ahead and tell you, you don't have to buy this. Just make sure you buy something good. Don't go into your dollar store and buy the dollar oil. So make sure that you buy something important for your truck. This right here is important. This will actually make sure that my engine is taken care of and it gets what it needs. But anyways, I will leave a link in the description to so you can actually buy this if you want to. Now my truck requires 9 gallons and 3/4 of another gallon. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave about a gallon back and put the remainder in the engine, but that extra gallon I'm going to run it straight through the turbo, and that's what I'm going to use to lubricate the turbo before we actually start the truck up. So let me go ahead and put the rest of this oil in, and then we'll jump over to the turbo. Okay, so now let's go ahead and put oil inside the turbo. This is like a little specialty funnel. It's really good for transmissions and stuff like that. But it happens to fit perfect right inside that hole. So let's go ahead and put some oil in there. Now it may take a little bit for the oil to drain down, as you see. It's going down in. It's just taking a little while. So I will come right back to this. Okay, so with the housing full of oil now, let's go ahead and put the adapter in. Make sure you check your O-ring, because it does have one. Snug. That's all you want. You over tighten it and it breaks off in there, you're in trouble. Okay, let's take the bottom off of this. Let me go get some anti-seize and I'll be right back. Okay, so we're going to lightly coat the threads with the anti-seize. You don't want to do too much because you don't want this stuff going down into your turbo. Okay. Okay, let's take this and thread it on their hand. Okay. I'm taking my 13/16, putting this on. Okay, let me go ahead and tighten this up. Okay, so the oil line's tight now. So we're going to come back here and pin this. And we need a little spacer, so let's go ahead and spacer it. The height is just a little bit different. Nothing major. It'll be fine. Got too many washers on here. We don't need that one. We do need this one. The washers are going to be used as shims. Okay, let me go get the wrenches for that. Okay, so let's go ahead and tighten this up. Now this is going to vary on the size. I ended up putting new hardware in here that was grade 9, so I would advise to use new hardware, but what I'm using is a 12 millimeter. Okay, so this oil line is not going to be moving anywhere anytime soon. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so now it's time to put the breather box on. We're going to take new anti-seize, put it around these studs. You don't need a lot. Okay. You have to do some wiggling. Get this thing go down in there. There we go. So you can go ahead and put your hose on your turbo. Or not. Let's just go ahead and line the top up first. Okay. Now I'm going to tell you, if you have too many problems with it, you can actually put Armor All on everything, and it'll free up a lot easier. Okay. Okay. Let's go ahead and put the washer on. Nut. We're just going to put it on hand tight right now because we still may need to do some adjusting. Okay, now come down here to the bottom. Okay, we've got one more back up in here. Okay, now we can tighten it up. Okay, now I get that one in the very back there. Come on. Okay. So now we're going to go after a clamp. Now, I could put this on here, but as you see, that sensor is going to be in the way. So we'll just feed it up around. Make sure you do it tight. Okay. You got one up there on the top. make sure you get it on there tight. You got one here. Okay, now you got a sensor here that you need to plug in. Okay, lock it in. Okay, so let's go grab the air filter. Okay, so we got the air filter in, put the cover up on it. You got floor clips. Okay, so now we got to do this bottom tube here. Okay, so on this next part we are going to use some Armor All, because this always fits tight right here. Not gonna hurt one thing at all. And as you see, I did clean that pipe up. Okay. We can remove this lower cap on the turbo. Okay, we'll leave that there. Let's go put this in. Okay. So this is the side that we're going to try and tighten down first. And I did forget. I gotta put some anti-seize on here. This is a 13 millimeter. Ah, that ain't no good. Get on there. Okay, now let's go ahead and tighten this side here up. Well, we gotta loosen it up here first. Bring it down. Okay, so what we're doing is we're going to take this, put some anti-seize on it as well. Yep, just drop the nut. Make sure you have this facing down. That way if you do your work, you're not going to poke yourself. Okay, so we got that taken care of now. Okay, so basically what we're going to be doing inside here is we're going to start the truck up. We're going to make sure the oil pressure gauge comes up. Now my truck is automatic, so I have to wait until the speedometer cycles. Okay, we got oil pressure. Okay, so I want to make this clear right off the top. I'm not holding a camera. I've got my GoPro strapped to my head with a head harness. Okay, so anyways, we're gonna go take a little road trip and make sure, well, we're gonna see how everything runs. But first I have to make sure I take care of my computer log. So I'm not going very far, and this is actually considered a maintenance item. So we're going to use a personal conveyance. We're going to put it in their garage. Okay, so now I'm in personal conveyance. What that means is that doesn't interfere with my normal hours of duty. So we are currently going down my driveway right now. I know, I got trees. if any problems actually come up while we're driving, I just want to let everyone know ahead of time that the turbo changing out was one part of the video, but I do plan on changing my wiring harness on the truck. I plan on changing the sensor harness actually, and so if we have any issues or anything, that's going to be the next video. So far, everything seems good. I've had the truck running for about 25 minutes, so it's fairly warmed up, but we're gonna give it a few more minutes before we do anything with it. Running okay.